the Atlanta Hawks have been having a rough go at it this early start of the season, and it just doesn't seem as if it is getting that much better. It's actually getting progressively worse, in my honest opinion. We had a glimmer of light after a 4-game losing skid. We went down to New Orleans, and we actually got a good win versus those guys. But unfortunately, coming back home and taking on the defending world champion Boston Celtics, it just doesn't seem as if things can get any better for the Atlanta Hawks this early point of the season. There is still a chance because it is early in the season. But, as of right now, it's pretty tough. But before we go any further, what's going on, everybody? My name is Walter Pollard, and welcome to Atlanta Hawks Digest. Now, we got to jump into a few things. We got to talk about last night's game versus the Boston Celtics. Of course, we definitely got to give some credit where credit is due because, we've been dealing with a lot of injuries, and the injury bug has just been going crazy with the Atlanta Hawks. And so with all of that, we definitely got to give credit where credit is due. And then we got to end things off with definitely talking about this NBA Hall of Famer that is basically signed and give his stamp of approval for the Atlanta Hawks, saying that they will make the playoffs. So with all of that being said, we got to jump into last night's game review. We definitely want to talk about that because, again, it was a crazy night. The Atlanta Hawks were actually somewhat competitive, going into that game. Actually, for about a quarter and a half, the Atlanta Hawks were quite competitive. But it actually ended really quickly because there was a 34-9 run by the Boston. Excuse my voice, but it was a 34-9 run by the Boston Celtics, which basically gave them the rest of the game moving forward. Now, some points that I wanted to point out with the Atlanta Hawks. For one, they're the Boston Celtics. Okay, they are the reigning champions of the NBA, so we all know what we're going to get out of them. It's going to be a performance, and unless they have some players that are key players, I want to point out, unless there are some key players that are out for the game, I would not expect for there to be a win for us, unfortunately. Now, also, I want to point out that you don't want to get into shooting matches with teams like this. The Atlanta Hawks definitely were trying to shoot their way out of a hole that, progressively got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, which of course led to the loss to the Boston Celtics. I mean, going 4 for 20 from 3 is unacceptable. It was definitely unacceptable. Another point that I wanted to point out was that our key players didn't step up in the time that we needed them. Of course, Trae Young was 1 for 10 from the three, and he also ended up leaving the game midway through the third quarter, actually late in the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter. We'll talk about that. And so with all of those different things, Trae Young actually ended with only 2 points last night. So it was not a really good game on his end. But for somebody that it was a good game, it was definitely a good game for Onyeka Okongwu. He was actually able to show up with 18 points, 10 rebounds, and that was quite impressive. Of course, you see Keaton Wallace with the assist to him, and then the lob. I mean, he definitely had an incredible game, but again, with all of that, it was just a tough go at it for the Atlanta Hawks. So with all that being said, definitely got to talk about the players that have stepped up for the Atlanta Hawks. And Coach Quin Snyder was actually found in a statement talking about these guys. The guys I want to, mention, of course, was Keaton Wallace, whom you just saw, and Keaton Wallace and Garrison Matthews. He basically said that they are examples of the development in our program. If you watch the tape from Garrison 2 years ago, the things that he was doing differently as far as how he was putting the ball on the floor then, it's totally different than how he's doing it now. And then to go even further, to talk about Keaton Wallace and what he's done in the program, and speaking on how he was banged up last year. But to finish it off, I wanted to read this excerpt down at the bottom here. He basically said, for the players, that they and the coaches, they have been in there every single day working. Garrison, Keaton, and other guys, they have been in there working on things that they think can help the team. So when they do have these opportunities, they're prepared. And as a coach, for me, I am excited. It gives me confidence. it gives the rest of the team confidence. It gives their teammates confidence. And I love that for them, of course, because, again, a lot of these different players have been out. But I want to point out some other players that, have been putting some effort in, coming from the bench. I want to point out how you had Larry Nance. Of course, he wasn't in the game last night. He was, did not play. But, of course, coming off of the bench, he had 14 points. And then you got David Roddy. He's performing. You got Garrison Matthews. You got Keaton Wallace, whom I just mentioned. You got Barlow. All of these players have been stepping up, but we cannot do what we have to do if DeAndre Hunter is still out, if Bogdan Bogdanović is out, if Vic Krejci is still out. We need these key players to come back so that, the Atlanta Hawks can improve. Because right now this skid is not doing well. I do hope that things can get better for the Atlanta Hawks. As a matter of fact, I want to point out that the next game will be against the New York Knicks, November 6th. So after y'all vote, get your tickets, y'all can go down and check that game out versus the Knicks. But the next few games that the Atlanta Hawks do have, you got the Knicks, Pistons, Bulls, Celtics again. And again, you got another rematch versus the Washington Wizards. And then you go on a West Coast tour, only for 3 games before coming back to the Bulls. On the West Coast, you got the Blazers, the Kings, the Warriors, come back to the Bulls, and then you finish off this 10-game stretch with the Mavericks. So again, you tell me what you see. I want to know. I'm not going to give any predictions. I want you to tell me what you see as far as this list is concerned, because again, these Atlanta Hawks, with all of these injuries mounting up, we want to make sure that they are in the best position that they can be in, so that they can get better. Now, I want to bring up Zaccharie Risacher, mainly because this guy he's been amazing. Okay, I want to point out that he's been amazing, and that's basically it. Coming in as a rookie to the Atlanta Hawks, he's definitely stepped up and kind of proved a lot of people wrong. And I bring that up mainly because right now, Zach Edey, of course, he's the number 1 front runner for Rookie of the Year. But there is a strong possibility that Zaccharie Risacher could possibly make a run for it. He actually made a major jump at the start of the season, because I think at the start of the season, he was around 5 or 6. He wasn't in that top tier category, but with the latest progressions, of course, him having to jump in and start for some hurt key players for the Atlanta Hawks, he's actually jumped up and made some major progression. So you tell me, and definitely let me know in the comments as far as what you see for Zaccharie Risacher, because, again, there's a strong possibility. 8 points per game. These are the averages, again. 8 points per game, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. He's almost got a whole block per game, 1 steal per game. So this guy is definitely doing the best that he can for the Atlanta Hawks, and I think that he's going to definitely make some moves. Barring any injuries, I don't want anybody to be hurt. But if he can improve and possibly add more to those stats, again, it's only early in the season. That's why I'm not really worried about, again, the injury bug and things of that such, because it's really early. So in a way, you want to get those things out of the way, because we'd be having a totally different conversation as if the Atlanta Hawks were doing extremely well and went on a crazy run early in the season, and then it just all goes away. It all goes away due to injuries. Now, I want to bring up this last clip, man. There was this NBA legend that went on and said that he believes the Atlanta Hawks will make the playoffs.
Let me ask the DraftKings question. The Atlanta Hawks, will they make the playoffs? Yes is plus 160. No is minus 200.
They will make the playoffs.
The play-in doesn't count as the playoffs.
But if they win that play-in series, yeah, I think they will.
I got to listen to the professor. Why you say that, Shaq?
They're not bad to where they go below 10. It's all about matchup. So 10 plays 9 or whatever, 10 plays 7 or 8. Don't ever count Trae out because if he heats up, he can carry it. But can he carry it a whole season by himself to where they're in the 5th, 6th, 7th spot? No. That's no disrespect to Trae. He's one of my favorite players, but he needs help. Yeah, he out there by himself. But if they get in the 9th, 10th spot and get a matchup that favors them, I'm going to go and say, yes, they make it. Because I have that much confidence that Trae can carry us for 3-4 games.
So, of course, Shaq was, he was talking about, Trae Young. And first of all, I got 3 points real quick. Before I get out of here, I want to point out that Shaq, for one, has always been a fan of Trae Young since he came into the league. He's always been doing the the hawk call or whatnot. So, first of all, he's always been a fan of Trae Young. And so with him, I would say it's a little home cooking. He does live in the Atlanta area. He does have some bias, I would assume. But then on top of that, the second point I want to point out is that he emphasized Trae Young needed help. So far this season, Trae has been averaging a 27, 5, and 11. And so that's pretty good. 27 points, 5 rebounds, 11 assists per game. So we definitely got to give him a shout out. That's a double-double. You're averaging a double-double so far. But the injury bug has impaired the Hawks so far this season, limiting the weapons that Trae Young can have at his disposal. So that's one thing you definitely want to point out. And then Trae Young, he was actually caught up. Just like I'm fighting this, this cold, as you can hear it in my voice, Trae Young has caught a bit of the injury bug as well. Last night, he went out late in the third quarter due to a apparent rib sprain. A right rib sprain. I think they're going to definitely do some evaluation. Actually, Coach Quin Snyder, again, was found in a comment talking about Trae Young. And he basically said, what you've heard is what I've heard. He's been playing great. He's worn down right now. Snyder said, we got a lot of guys that are competing, and that's all that you can ask. And that is the absolute truth with Trae Young. The fact that he got caught up in this, it sucks. And to boot that, Kobe Buffkin and Vic Krejci are all hurt. So now you got 3 point guards or 3 potential number ones that are, all out of the way. Not number ones as far as their position on the team, but, on the floor, point guards and whatnot. So again, with all of this being said, it's early in the season. That's the silver lining right now that I want to point out to everybody. The silver lining is that it is early in the season. There is a possibility that the Atlanta Hawks can do better as time goes on and that they get healthy. So only time will tell. But you all let me know in the comments. I will check back in with you after the game, versus the Knicks. But you guys tell me what you think in the comment. Let me know. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.